Glad you're with us on the program. JJ LaSelva is here. Hays Carlyon is here. You ready for this, Hays? I got a little Jaguar test for you.
All right.
It's not a test. It's a quiz, but it's not. It's a survey. I'm going to give you names of young players, and I want you to give me, keep it to 20 words.
Okay.
But a paragraph or so, or more than 20 words, of where they will be in their career next year, and then how they will be looked at when their career has ended. Does that make sense?
It does.
You ready?
Yep.
Jarian Jones.
He will get a second contract here and be a good, not great player.
Nickel, outside?
I'd say nickel.
You don't think he'll get outside? Okay. Tank Bigsby.
I don't think he makes it to a second contract here, but I do think he'll have 2 pretty good years to finish it out.
Okay.
And then he'll go on to have success somewhere else.
Yeah, I think Tank Bigsby will definitely make a second contract here. Jarian Jones, I'm 50-50 on it, but I think he's going to be a good player. I'd like he's got an edge to him. I'd like to see him outside. Brenton Strange.
Brenton Strange will have a second contract here and will be a 10-year Jaguar. He'll be a pretty good player.
I think so, too. I'm real interested to see what he will be if they let him get down the field some, and how if they choose to do that. Again, their down the field tight end has been only Evan Ingram for the last few years. But now with these last 3 games, maybe one of the most interesting things to me in these last 3 games is, do you throw the ball downfield to Brenton Strange some? You're now confident throwing it to him. We caught the ball 11 times, but nothing really down the field. And Mac Jones isn't a great down the field thrower, so but interesting for me. Monteric Brown.
I think he'll be gone in a year.
Okay. Backup, not even a backup. Will he be a backup in the league?
Somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't think we'd hear much of him once he's gone from
I think there's something there. The league is full of cornerbacks. I mean, every team's got a ton of them because there's some defenses where you play 6 at a time. I don't think he's going to be a great player, but I think they've been better with him playing than they were with Ronald Darby playing. Now, I'm not comparing Ronald Darby to Prime, okay? But, I think they've been better with him. When they made that full change, I think that made their team better. Walker Little.
I think he'll be adequate, but not a star.
Will he be their left tackle?
I'm going to say yes.
I'm going to say keep your eye on Anton Harrison to left tackle and Walker Little to right tackle moving forward.
Then why wouldn't they do that now?
Because they haven't practiced it. There's reps, there's practice, there's plays.
Yeah.
They are different. The responsibilities are different. Neither of those guys has spent a lot of time. Now, Walker Little's practiced a little on the right side because he was a swing tackle. But neither of those players, I wouldn't change them when they haven't repped that. But I may be wrong, but I would say keep an eye. I would keep an eye on once the season's over and you can start over. I would keep an eye on that. Parker Washington.
I think not. I think probably leaves as a free agent or gets released and maybe gets a cup of coffee somewhere else.
Just a guy, okay?
Yeah.
See, again, I think he'll be in the league a long time. Won't be a star, but I think he'll be in the league a long time. Ventrell Miller.
I'll say Ventrell Miller. What's this? His second year here. I'll say does not get a second contract here, but plays for a few years beyond the Jaguars somewhere else.
I think he's the star. He's the first one I've mentioned today that I think is a star. I think now you got to stay on the field, Ventrell, and so. But I think of the Jarian Jones, Tank Bigsby, Brenton Strange, Walker Little, Parker Washington, Ventrell Miller. Of the 6 guys I just read off, I think he's the best player of the group. Mason Smith.
I actually like Mason. I think Mason will be a good player here. So I'll say it's so early to talk about second contracts. Talk about contracts. I think Mason Smith will be a good player here.
I do too. I think he'll be a pretty good player here.
And so, obviously, I think he's going to get a second contract. But, we're early.
Yeah, and I'm not
he still has 3 more years.
And I'm not as much in the contract as is he going to be pretty good? That's kind of where I'm going with all this. Anton Harrison.
I think he's going to be here another 6-7 years. At a minimum. I think he's he's had some inconsistency this year, but I think overall you have to be pleased with Anton Harrison's first year and 3 quarters here. So I think he projects as a starter here for a long while.
Antonio Johnson.
I think gets released, goes somewhere else.
Jordan Jefferson.
Gets released, goes somewhere else.
All right, I went through 11 guys, 11 young players, all right, most of whom were drafted by the Jaguars. Monteric Brown was not drafted, but for the most part, I went through a bunch of guys that the Jags have drafted somewhere along the line.
I think Brown was drafted.
Oh, he was. That's right.
Yeah.
He was a free agent. So they've all been drafted. All right, so I'm going to go through my take on all these. And that's 11 guys that are young that have factored. We spent a whole day yesterday talking about Brian Thomas Jr. We don't need to talk about him. We've talked about guys who've been here longer, okay?
I think Brian Thomas Jr. will get a second contract here.
See, I'm not sure. That's the one I'm not sure about, okay? I would think if you I may consider a move to corner to make you more productive. No, so we all know how great Brian Thomas Jr. is. We all think he's going to be a superstar. I'm going to go through this list that I asked you. I think Jarian Jones might be a good player. I don't know star. I think he might play outside. I think he's tough. I think he's physical. I think he's got an edge to him. I don't know if he runs well enough to run with the star players, but that might be the only thing missing. I think there's I like him a lot. I like him. I think he's going to be a very, very good player. Tank Bigsby, I think, will be here for a second contract. I think he'll be a good downhill runner. I don't know that he's ever going to be a great runner. I don't know that he's going to be a great back, but in what today's NFL is, physical running back, I think he's going to be very good. Brenton Strange, I don't know what he'll be down the field. I think if he's good down the field, he could. But I can't tell you what I've seen now. Everything you see about the guy's hard not to love him. He's physical. He loves to block. He loves to hit people. He's got great hands. He catches everything. He's tough after the catch. But because they haven't sent him vertically, Hays, I don't know. I mean, this is one. I'm trying with every guy on this list. I'm trying to picture what I've seen them do, even in practice. I haven't seen 85. In camp, we get to go to the whole practice. I haven't seen 85 down the field very much. Monteric Brown, I think, is a fun little backup player. I don't think he's going to be a star. I have way higher hopes for Jarian Jones than I do Monteric. But Monteric has stepped in there, stuck his nose in there. I think Walker Little's a right tackle, not a left tackle. And I think he'll be one. I think Anton Harrison's a left tackle, not a right. And I think Anton Harrison might be really good, by the way. I think Anton Harrison, when he gets on the left side, when he's protecting a quarterback's back, when he's been in the league now a third year, I think he might be the best guy in this group, okay? I think Ventrell Miller's a really good player. And by the way, I just said it about Anton Harrison, too, who went to Oklahoma, so it's not because Ventrell went to Florida. I just think there's an explosiveness. He's got to learn how to play. He still gets lost in coverage sometimes. It's not – the NFL's complicated. We say it's easy. Well, it's not. And you got to learn coverage. So I think he's going to be a really good player. I have really high hopes for Mason Smith. I haven't seen enough. I'm just going to trust what my LSU friends have told me about him, the physicality. I think Parker Washington could be a really good player on a team with two good outside players. I think he's a guy that could work the middle of the field, a lesser version, today lesser, than Christian Kirk. Antonio Johnson I worry about. I think there's too many missed assignments. I think there's a reason he dropped to fifth in the draft when a year earlier he would have been projected as a second rounder. Jordan Jefferson, I haven't seen enough. He was very good at LSU last year. I think he may be just a guy. So on this list of 11 that I gave you, the ones I'm most excited about, I really do think Anton Harrison's a left tackle and a very good one. I think Walker Little's going to be fine as a right tackle. I think they have their tackles. Again, I would flip them, but who knows if that'll happen. I think Ventrell Miller's a starting middle linebacker in the NFL. I think he's today's middle linebacker. He's not. Look, there's not a lot of Fred Warners who are 250 and run. There's just that guy's just not. You just can't. That's Brian Urlacher. You just can't find that guy. That's Ray Lewis. Most guys that are big don't run, right? And there's not a lot of guys.
It's amazing that Warner ended up at BYU. No disrespect to them, but boy, does he look like somebody that should have been at Alabama or Michigan or USC.
Correct, because he's 250 and runs
it's like how did he fall through the cracks?
But you don't have those guys very often. At least I don't think you have those guys. At least for me, I don't think you have those guys very often. So, but I think Ventrell Miller's a good player. I think Ventrell Miller's a really good player. I really do. Of this group, I guess that's it. Mason Smith, I've got hopes for. Ventrell Miller, Anton Harrison is a left tackle. Ventrell Miller is a middle linebacker, not moved all around, is a Mike linebacker who will play downhill. I think it's going to be, and I'm really intrigued with Jarian Jones. I really. So of all that group, none of them excite you. Doesn't sound like of that 11.
No, I like Harrison.
Yeah.
I like Jarian. Yeah, I mean, beyond, I think, Walker Little is, I mean, we know he's going to be here because he just got an extension. The thing that I would say going down that list, and we'll see about like Mason Smith. I like Mason Smith, but it's certainly very early, is like Jarian could play for the Ravens. Jarian Jones could play for the Steelers, and he'd fit in. Like, he has that edge. And I don't think a lot of the guys on your list have that. That's a concern.
That is a number one, yes, and that's a great description of him and the kind of team he would play for. Great description. Ventrell Miller have it?
I don't think so. I think he's a good, fast player.
Yeah.
I don't know that I see enough edge yet. Doesn't mean it's not in there. And again, it's hard because, he hasn't played maybe as much as we would like. But yeah, I need to see more there.
Yeah,
to say that about him.
Yeah, I do. I have a good feeling about him. So the point of the exercise, and none of these guys are their star. Okay, Anton Harrison might be, but other than Anton Harrison, none of these guys are their projected star players. I didn't even talk about Brian Thomas Jr. or Trevor Lawrence or Josh Hines Allen or Trayvon Walker or Tyson Campbell. That's 5 guys that they think are stars, and they better be stars because they got paid as stars. So my point is, I think there's something there. That's where I was going with all this.
I think there's something there as well.
I do.
And again, if you did this with most clubs and you said, we're going to exclude your 6 best players, your 6 highest paid players, and we're going to go through 11 guys that are basically on rookie contracts. Walker Little just got an extension, but basically he's still on a rookie contract. I would say if you feel good about 6 of the 11, you're doing pretty well. And so, yeah, that's what I keep coming back to. I don't think this is a rebuild. To me, it will be disappointing if whoever is making the decisions come February 1st, whenever that's solidified, it will be disappointing if the first comment is, well, we've really got to take this back down to the studs, and ownership has given me the power to do that, or his blessing to do that. I do not think this is have a fire sale, get a bunch of picks, start anew. I don't think that's necessary here. Yeah, I think you're close. I think the problems that the Jaguars have can absolutely be corrected this offseason, and they can absolutely be back in contention and what will probably be another mediocre year for the AFC South. I think they absolutely can be right back in contention next year. This is a retool. It is not a rebuild.
And you said it more succinctly than I did, but that's what I think too. So it'll be really. So I will allow myself, regardless of how this one winds up. Okay, whether this one winds up 3-14, whether this one winds up 6-11, or wherever they land, when this one's over, I'll feel better about. I won't feel as bad about where I think they're headed as I did about the way this one turned out.
The other thing, too, to keep in mind with a lot of the guys that you mentioned, as of now, they've got 10 draft picks coming in.
Correct.
I mean, that's how many picks they have scheduled for this coming draft. So, plus you're going to have free agency. They're going to be somewhat active, even if it's, again, if it's a C-level free agent, right, that's going to be in competition with a lot of the guys on your list there. So, that's another thing is one good thing about moving forward is these guys are going to get pushed, as they should, and you hope that whoever is making the decisions wisely makes the right choices with that capital. That's significant draft capital. To have that many picks that you can bring in, they're going to be able to bring in a quality newcomer, at least from a prospect standpoint, pretty much in every room.
My biggest concern where I didn't go with any of this, other than Mason Smith, the interior of the two lines. I think I've said all along the interior of the two lines what concerned me the most. Shame on me for probably not throwing safety play in there earlier, because the safety play has allowed some really big ones over the top.
Hey, Mia here, and thanks so much for watching 1010XL Jaguars. For even more coverage of the Big Cats, be sure to subscribe to 1010XL Jaguars.